I am on the phone with my then 4-year-old son, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, you're going to be at my party tomorrow, right?" It's his birthday the next day. The next day, February 18th was his birthday, and he's like, "You're going to be at my birthday party tomorrow, right, Dad?" And I was like, "No, I don't know, bud." My kids thought I was working, right? So I'm like, "No, I don't think I'm." He's like, No. You know where it is. You know where it's at. I'll see you tomorrow at my birthday." And that conversation broke me.
Yeah.
It literally just, I hung up the phone and I went into my room, and for a person that had zero belief in God or anything of that sort, I was out of answers. And I knew at that very moment I was out of answers. And I hit my knees, in that room by myself, and I was asking for help.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Willpower Podcast. I am so happy that you're here with me today. And if you're doing great, then that's awesome. And if you're not doing great, then I'm really happy that you're here today because I have a very special guest. Let me give you a brief intro on who's coming up. So today I'm joined by Michael Conklin, the founder of Better Beginning Now, an online recovery community dedicated to connection, growth, and transformation. With over 17 years, he said 15, but it's 17, in recovery, Mike's journey took him from a 25-year career in the food service industry to a life-altering point 3 years ago that redefined his path. Now a certified addiction recovery coach and a Jay Shetty-trained life coach, he's passionate about showing others that change is possible. It's within reach, no matter how far gone you feel. Through Better Beginning Now, Mike offers support, guidance, and a no-nonsense approach to helping people in recovery and beyond step into the lives of purpose and abundance. With 50% of the proceeds fueling the recovery community, get ready for some real talk with a guy who's walked the walk. What's up, Mike? How are we doing today, bud?
Well, Will, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for the intro. I feel like kind of good, Like,
Yeah, how do you feel about that? You like the intro?
If I was feeling good, I'm feeling great now. You know what I mean? If I was feeling good, I'm feeling great. Nah, I really appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you very much for having me here. There's nothing that I enjoy more than kind of just chopping it up and getting together with other people in the recovery community. And hopefully something that you and I, talk about today touches the life of just maybe one person, hopefully more. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's always my goal. If I can just, if one thing that I say resonates with one person on a daily basis, life is good.
It's so true, isn't it? Like, if you can just reach even just one person that day, it just makes all of this, what we're doing here, so worth it. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to kind of come to grips with that, right? Like, I'm an alcoholic and an addict, right? Like, my addiction is more. So when I made this decision to kind of go into the online social media space, it's really easy to kind of, start chasing after followers or looking for likes and comments and I feel good about myself when somebody says something nice. Like, that's just the addict in me. But I had to remember what I was doing. I had to remember why I started, posting stuff online in the first place, and I had already had some years in sobriety, in recovery, had already been helping people. And what I looked at it from the standpoint of is if I do this in the online space, I can touch a lot more lives, a lot more. And I may not know which ones I touch, but what my hope was that if I share what's on my heart on a daily basis, I don't have some sheet, I don't have a plan for what I'm going to share each day, anything like that. But whatever's on my heart, a lot of times I just pick up my phone, I record it, and I post it. Yeah. There's no retakes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I want to share with people, anybody that wants to listen, whatever that is, I just kind of put it out there and hopefully it resonates with somebody.
That's awesome, man. That's kind of where I'm going towards actually with my podcast too. Like I feel like sometimes I try to get in my own head and then I try to overproduce things and then it just sucks. But when I'm just myself and I'm just kind of going off the cuff, that's when I feel like I'm my most authentic self. And that's, I feel like, what resonates at the highest level possible because I'm being just myself, my genuine self. So that's cool. So thank you, man. Thank you for saying that. So Michael, what was that moment when you realized the old you had to die for the new version to show up?
So here's the thing. So I was 17 years sober. I celebrated.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. My sobriety date is February 12th, 2008. I have no problem saying by the grace of God, I get to sit here before you people today. Like yeah. And then basically what flipped my life on end, it was actually about 6 years ago now. 6 years ago now, I was 10 years sober, and, marriage and a life that I was living for a very long time just came to an end. And I was already 10 years sober, and that kind of really like made me question a lot of things that was going on in my life. When I first got sober, I had very, very solid 5 years of sobriety. Those first 5 years, I was very connected with, other people in recovery. Everything that I felt that I had lost leading up to my demise, my surrender, everything leading up to that, I thought that I had lost. I got back and then some. Life got so good, and it got good because I was changing the things that I was doing. I was sober. I was connected to other people that were kind of working program in their life, and good things started to happen, and they got so good that I was sober. I stayed sober for the next 5 years, but I slipped back and, because I wasn't connected to other people, I slipped back into being the same asshole that I was prior to getting sober. All of the same mannerisms came back, and, my wife at the time, like, enough was enough, and I had put her through enough hell, I think, that it was kind of like, you know what? This just isn't working anymore. And I could not accept that. Even with 10 years of sobriety, I was not good at accepting it at first. I really was not. And I had a hard time with it. And then what did I do? I didn't drink. I got reconnected with people in recovery. And I went back to the same things that I learned in the beginning when I first got sober, and I started applying those things to my life again. And guess what? I started to feel better again.
Yeah.
And then things started to change. And then it was about a couple of years after that, I got more physically active. I went to the gym for the first time in my life. Got myself in the best shape that I was ever in. I was actually joking about this the other day. When I first got in shape, my youngest son had said to me, like, hey, why don't you join the gym? Why don't you just join the gym? He had been going to the gym. He's like, you might like it. So I started going to the gym, and it sucked at first. Just as anything that we've never done before, it sucks, and as an alcoholic and an addict, like, I want to be good at everything that I do, or I don't want to do it, period. Yeah. Right? I don't want to do new stuff. I suck at it. If people make fun of me, you know what I mean? So I went though, and I pushed through it, and I really started to see results. I started to see results in the actions that I was taking. I started feeling better, started looking better. As I started looking better, I started feeling better about myself. So when I got myself, like, when I finally was like feeling pretty good, I was like, man, I think I haven't been in this kind of shape since I was in high school. My younger son goes, you haven't been in this shape ever. Don't fucking kid yourself. You've never been in this kind of shape. So I was like, okay, maybe you're right. But so that kind of led me to COVID had hit, and I was in the restaurant business in New York, and restaurant and catering, and it took a huge hit, during COVID. Oh, yeah. And like everything was shut down, and I just, I was fine with it. I was home, lost a lot of revenue, but it's kind of like, it made me think like I need to do something different, right? I need to go in a different direction. And by this time I was reconnected with recovery. And then a person that I knew had said, hey, my sister, or I can't remember, I think it was my sister, is her boyfriend is a recovery peer advocate. It's a program here in New York State. You can look it up. She sent me the information. I checked it out. And I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. I would like to do something like this. So I got my certification for that. Fast forward a little while later, I wanted to grow more into the space of being able to help people in that space. And I was like, I was really into like listening to some of Jay Shetty's stuff, reading the stuff that he wrote. Like, the guy is amazing. So I was, saw that he had this life coaching school. Mm-hmm. So I took that as well to get my certification in that. So now I have, now at this point I had the tools to like kind of help people, not just with, I know how to stop drinking and stay stopped, and I know the principles that go along with it, so I can help people in that space. But how can I help them better once they're sober for a little while and really applying some things to life in general? Because that's the key, right? Once we get sober, it's not just about not drinking. I need to know how I can improve my life on a daily basis, and being able to kind of like help people bridge that gap from like where they are to where they want to be. It helped me a lot with the ability to do that.
Yeah. Wow. That was an awesome intro, by the way. There you go, man. I didn't want to touch on a sensitive subject, but if we could, and if you don't mind, and if you do, we can always go over it. But you were talking earlier about when you were in your first marriage.
Yes. Yep.
And she said she had enough. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, was it your drinking? She just had enough of you in your drinking, or was it what happened?
So just my complete, I think, like I said, at the time that the marriage kind of came to dissolution, I was 10 years sober, but I was 5 years away from practicing principles of a program that I had learned in the first 5 years. So I basically was just an asshole. I was once again very secretive. I was very closed-minded. Everything was just like, I was very selfish. A lot of things were just me, me, me. I didn't want to hear about what was going on in other people's lives. I was so focused on the business that, I was trying to run at the time. And I was just very selfish, and I was very just focused on, not concerned, like, hey, we can talk about that later. I didn't hear things, that were really going on. And quite honestly, I didn't see it, and that was my hardest thing, I think, at the time is like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do I mean? I've been trying to talk to you for fucking months, years. Like, what do you mean? What you like? And I was like, I just didn't see it. I didn't see it coming, but fast forward, doing like some more introspective work on myself, all the signs were there, right?
Yeah.
Like I can take, I can take credit. I can own my part in how it got to where it got to. You know what I mean? And that's on me. You know what I mean? And it wasn't any radical things that happened. I think it was just a matter of like little things over the course of time that just instantly, when person reaches their breaking point, guess what? It's broke. Right. And then it's everybody's got, both sides have to be willing to fix things at the time. And we weren't there.
Yeah, man.
And it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That's really tough. And I can totally relate to that. Like, that, and like my first stint of sobriety, I did about 3.5 months, and it was brutal. Like I did it. Everything you're supposed to do when you get sober, I did the exact opposite of that. I was like a shut in. I was a dry drunk. You know that term. I was like mad that I was sober. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like enthusiastic about it. I wasn't, open minded towards everything that was coming into my life that were like that significantly getting better. But I couldn't see that far down the line, and I was too much in my own head and my own, I guess, ego, honestly, to kind of counteract that. So it was unfortunate. And yeah, my relationships took a hit big time. That's why I always talk about my wife on my show, because she's just such an angel, the most patient, loving soul I've ever met in my life. And just, I hit the lottery with her. So, and I can't believe she didn't.
And if I can give you a man-to-man, some advice, like keep that idea and remember it regularly, because,
yes.
I can honestly say, I would have probably been dead, before that. My ex-wife and I were together a long time prior to, that marriage ending. And, I give a lot of credit to the shit that she put up with for so long. We had 3 kids, we have 3 kids still, but those 3 kids, if it wasn't for her efforts, you know what I mean? My kids are great. She was a great mom. You know what I mean? She poured her life into those kids, and they're amazing. And I would honestly, I got sober, my kids were 10, 7, and just turning 5. And those early years, she gave, you know what I mean? They weren't getting, the warm, fuzzy cuddling. I could play, but I didn't know. When I got, when Emily was born, I was 22 years old when she was born, drinking heavily, still using drugs. And I can't believe they give children to people, right? It's just here, I didn't have to fill out an application or anything. I would not give a child to me back then, but that's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? It ain't how it works. So I didn't have the tools, to be a dad, you know what I mean? Sometimes, I look back and I'm like, oh man, if I had the tools that I have now, then I wonder how differently it would be.
Yeah, there's no manual to how to be a person or to raise a person.
No, they just hand them to you.
Hard.
Yeah. 2 days after they're born, here you go. Bye-bye. Good luck.
Yeah. So 17 years, man, that's so impressive. So congratulations. What do you do? How do you maintain your sobriety so well? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I actually, I stay pretty connected to other people I think it's connection.
Yeah.
That is how I maintain my sobriety. I maintain my sobriety and I continue to grow by staying connected with other people. The first thing I needed to do was get connected to people in recovery, other people that had, that were not only like doing this, but other people that had already walked a similar path, had some success in it. I was able to get advice and suggestions and guidance from those people. I needed to be willing to take the guidance and suggestions from them and not just say, yeah, but, that's not going to work for me. I needed to be able, I really had to be willing to take their advice and try new things. So once I was connected, I need to stay connected. I need to stay connected, and then I need to help other people get connected as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Get connected, stay connected, help other people to connect. And you'll watch people literally transform in front of you if they want it, right? I can't make anybody do anything.
No.
All I can do is live by example. I can give you some examples of like, hey, this is like, I had a very similar thing happen to me, and this is what I did, and it didn't fucking work very well. And then I tried this based on a suggestion from another person, and because they had been through it and it worked for them, and I tried it and it worked for me. So it's really a matter of like, we have incredible like knowledge and experiences available to us if we're just willing to ask.
Yeah.
I just need to put it out there. Like, this is what I'm struggling with. Can anybody help me? And it doesn't have to be in an open space. Like, I've got enough people in my life like that have some, time under their belts and experiences under their belt. And if I can just I don't want to say suck it up. If I can just let it go a little bit and stop being so selfish and like isolated and just be vulnerable and say, dude, I'm struggling with this right now. You got any advice? And I'm lucky I have some people like that in my life. The only problem with that is they hurt my feelings sometimes, like, cause they tell me the truth, bro.
You'll get your feelings hurt pretty often.
Yeah,
especially if you're not holding yourself accountable to what the things that you signed up for in the first place to get the help, right? You can't get mad at the person.
No, and that's the people. Okay, so those are the people I kept out of my life for the longest time. If you were going to tell me the truth and if whatever you were telling me didn't fall in alignment with what I wanted to do, then you're done. Not coming to you for advice anymore. If you're not willing to co-sign my bullshit, then we can't be friends.
Yeah.
So totally. I mean, that's really what it came down to. I needed people in my life that were not going to co-sign my bullshit, that were actually going to tell me the truth. And, my buddy says, that like his catchphrase was always, do you want to know what I think? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're not going to like it. And I'm like, oh man, here we go. But I already know intuitively what he's going to tell me before I even put it out there. It's just, I don't want to accept it yet. I need that outside perspective to make sure that, yep, this is what you need to do. Because there's plenty of times I've gone to that same person with a brilliant idea. Brilliant. I mean, I've got the solution to the situation. And guess who thought about it? Guess who came up with it? Me. I came up with this brilliant solution. So I run it by him, and like baffled, he's like, how long have you been thinking about that? I'm like, couple days, man, feeling pretty good about it. He goes, that's going to blow up in your face. You need to go back to anything. It could be anything. It's any idea that I think is a brilliant idea. You could apply it to like a relationship, finances, whatever it fits the boat. You know what I mean? Like, I come up with this idea, and if I do it on my own, like, just like, maybe it's to get back at somebody, right? Like, there's a lot of I in it, because that's what it comes down to. And he'll say, like, that's going to blow up in your face. And I would say, why? Because everything that is coming out of your mouth right now is I. You're not taking into consideration
I like that.
Any of the people that are also involved in this situation. I need to take into consideration when I'm coming up with an idea or a plan or a solution to something, I need to also take into consideration the other people that are involved, how it's going to affect them, and that's key, right? And if I don't, then I'm just being selfish.
Yeah. No, that's so true, man. Like, you have to be completely open book. You have to be a complete open book when it comes to sobriety. You can't have, you're hiding a little bit of this and, doing this wrong. Like, and I like how you said your intuition too, because that's such a huge part that I feel like we overlook as humans. We all have an intuition towards what is right, what is wrong. Is this serving me? Is this not? Right? And if it's simply not, then you got to move on, because you're never going to make progress, and you're never going to hit your goals that you're you're striving towards, if you are in the mind frame of, but, or, maybe I can have some of this or some of that. It's like, no, man, it's either all in or all out. You can't like dip your toes in the water with sobriety. You have to be, all the way in. People do say like, oh, it's my lifestyle. It's like who I am. And I agree with that in some parts, but I like to think of sobriety now that I'm, more than 2 years out, nowhere close to where you are, but it's not competition.
No, and it's not linear. Like, listen, at 10 years sober, there are people that are a year sober that had way better sobriety than I did at 10 years. Just because I wasn't drinking doesn't mean my sobriety was good. I just wasn't drinking. I was a shithead, right? And I don't want to be that. Like, that's not recovery, right? Recovery is not just, saying, I don't drink anymore, but I'm allowed to be an asshole because I don't drink. It's not a free pass.
No.
It's not a free pass.
No. That's so true. That's so true. Yeah.
Time means nothing, right? It doesn't, like, amounts of time. Like, listen, I am proud to say that I haven't drank in 17 years. And yes, I think that it is a big accomplishment to be able to, there's people like in my community that are 35, 40 years sober. And I hope to get to that someday too. I've been telling myself, I want to get to the day where the celebration where I have more years sobriety than I did drinking. So at 25 years, I'll have more years sober than I did drinking, so I look forward to that. Like that's a goal of mine now, right? Like, because I can't say that I'll never drink again. I have no idea. I don't know what life's going to throw at me, and I could decide to go drink again. I just know with every fiber of my being that I can never safely drink again.
Yeah.
I don't know where it'll take me. I know that there's going to be consequences with it. And today, I'm not willing to take the risk of what those consequences would be. Like, a drink or a drug's not worth it to me.
What kind of drinker were you? I'm curious.
It depends. Blackout, right? Like,
You were
I
like
like
a blackout?
Yeah, I like to drink till I blacked out. Like, I mean, it was almost like I lost hours upon hours of evenings. It started out as fun, right? But somewhere along the line, I always crossed that line, right? Like, it's a matter of, he looked good, everything seems to be going okay, and then 5 minutes later, like a shovel hit him in the face, and he became completely incoherent, and I don't remember any of that, right? Like, I don't remember it. We went out starting to have a good time, and then when consequences start to pile up, then it's like, okay, can't really go out, I'll just drink at home. And then drinking at home would just be kind of hanging around the house, but then slipping down to the basement, pounding as many as I could so that I could get that feeling that I'm looking for, without pounding them in front of the people that are in the house. So it's like a lot of secrecy drinking, like I crossed every line that I put in front of me. I always said, like, I had a business, at one point of, the time frame of drinking. And I was always like, I won't be a morning drinker. I'll wait till the afternoon. And then I start drinking, like, having a couple in the morning because I think it'll make me more productive, right?
Yeah, you start telling yourself those
makes me
lies.
Feel more at ease,
Yeah.
I feel like, I can talk to people better, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like but I don't know if am I slurring my speech by 10 a.m. to
Michael,
these people?
I was convinced of that, man. I actually went on a job interview and got the job and then all the interviews after that, I thought, like, I have to go in with the buzz because look at that, I killed it, right? So it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy that I wanted to happen, and it actually did happen. Hindsight's 2020. Further down the road, many drinking years after that, I went on another one, and yeah, it did not go well. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. Like,
are you drinking?
It's like, that's probably not the best. Yeah, probably not the best first impression when you show up to a job interview with a buzz because you're secretly an alcoholic.
Yeah,
that's some scary stuff. But
and then as towards the end there, it was like, so there was times where it was just a lot of binge drinking, like I would, kind of not drink a lot during the week, maybe a couple of, maybe drink a few and then a few more, like till I really felt a buzz, and then get drunk on the weekends. When I was younger, it was always blackout. Like, I think that was the goal. I had a friend of mine, actually, he was like, he worked at snowboard camp in the summers, like, out west. And he told the story. He's like, yeah, man, as long as you're hitting your goals, if your goal at night is to black out, if you hit that goal, then you accomplish something. That's great. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the kind of mindset that I lived in. You know what I mean? I knew that I was going to get boxed, when I was young. I knew it. I went out with the intention of getting completely hammered, and I wore it on my sleeve like a badge of honor. But the things that I the things that I said to people while I was wasted, or the babysitting that they had to do, or the times that they were just like, fuck it, leave him, he'll find his way home. You know what I mean? And I woke up in strange places, not knowing where I was. I've woken up in hospital beds, cuffed to the fucking gurney. I've woken up in jail cell. I can't even say wake up. I came to
consciousness.
I came to like a consciousness of like, what the fuck is going on? And then, somebody like kind of being like, whoa, what's going on? They're like, relax. You've been detained by the sheriff's department, we ran blood tests and whatnot. It's just craziness like that. And all the while, these were situations at the time, because I was young, I'm like, oh, these people are out to get me. I need to move again. I need to move to another state again. But every time I moved to another state, I found more problems, right? More problems found me is what I thought. But guess who's the common denominator in all these things? Me. I'm the common denominator, but I couldn't see that I was the problem, and that my problem started with the drinking, and if I wasn't drinking, I wouldn't have got myself into these scrapes. You hear it a lot. It's not that every time that I drank that there were problems or consequences, but every time there were problems and consequences, drinking was involved. Yes.
Yeah. And you, honestly, I see stats all the time, like, domestic abuse cases. It's almost like 100%, like either the perpetrator was drinking or the victim. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like when you look at the statistics of anything bad that happens in the world, car crashes, accidents, physical abuse, emotional abuse. Alcohol is always there, which is like, maybe, this isn't working out for most people.
Alcohol is the third leading cause of preventable death in the United States.
Yeah, I saw that stat like 2-3 weeks ago or something crazy. Yeah. I could not believe that.
Yeah,
I'm like
third preventable. It's preventable, folks. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it like this: if you knew somebody that had cancer, right? Stage 4 cancer, they're dying, and you literally said to them, "Hey, I have a solution to put your cancer in remission for the rest of your life. You can go on and live a normal life for the rest of your life. The only thing you have to do is follow this simple program. You need to start applying these principles to your life on a regular basis, and you will be okay. You're going to live a fucking happy, fulfilling, abundant life. Are you in?" Dude, the line will be out the door with cancer patients. Out the door. You ask an alcoholic the same thing, they're like, I don't know, man. It seems like a lot of work,
next
man.
Weekend. Yeah. It's
my
it's super
birthday
selfish.
is next week. Super Bowl is the week after that. I do know some friends that are getting married. I'm in the wedding, so I'm gonna have to drink for the bachelor party. I got to plan that. So we're making all of these excuses as to why this shouldn't work for me. Like why? Because it's all I ever knew, right? Like that's the reason so many people won't take the step of getting into recovery and doing something about it. It's the fear. For me, it was the fear of didn't know who I was going to become without drinking. It's all I knew. I was 9 years old the first time I got drunk with the intent of getting drunk. I blacked out at the age of 11, and I drank and drugged abusively for the next 25 years.
Yeah.
So like in that like container, it's kind of like, I don't know who I'm going to become. And that's scary.
It is scary, even though it's not scary, but you think it's scary. Like you think, like, I don't know who I am without alcohol in my system. I don't know how to socialize without alcohol in my system, right? And if you're already kind of a closed, reserved person, like, I don't know how you even do it, right? Like, how do I do this without it? And the way you do it without it is you just do it. You force your way into it, and then it's uncomfortable, but then it becomes, with the progression of time, it slowly becomes less and less uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden you forget like that you needed the alcohol in the first place to socialize, when you really didn't. You just needed to be present, mindful, aware, nice, kind, welcoming, like all these the facts of life that you would tell a 5-year-old, still applies to, a 35-year-old who has a drinking problem. It's like the same exact things, be nice to others, treat others with respect. Respect yourself, respect everyone else. It's like simple things, right? But we work in it. We work it up.
I was absent.
We just don't want.
I was absent the day they handed out that book of life. I went with Mike's
Me
book
too.
of life instead.
Actually, no, my dad was actually
Yeah.
I think he wrote that book. Granted,
Yeah.
he also had a drinking problem himself. So.
Yeah. I tell people all the time that I first start kind of working with in recovery is listen, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just get used to it because you're going to have to be. Every day is not going to be, sunshine and rainbows. It's not, right? There are going to be moments where you're going to be really tested by this. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but I promise you that discomfort and that fear that you're thinking about so greatly, on the other side of that fear is everything that was ever meant for you in life. Everything.
Oh God, yeah. And that next morning, man, you will wake up with such a feeling of accomplishment, and you really didn't do much. You just made the decision that you were not going to drink. And because of that decision, you'll wake up and you're like, I don't have a hangover. I don't have any brain fog. I don't feel nauseous. I'm not chasing the Bloody Mary drink that I always get because that's the hair of the dog thing that I used to always do. It's no, man, I feel great. I don't mind going food shopping. Right now it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll get up and I'll go food shopping, right? They're the simplest things. And then your anxiety levels start to level out, and then you start feeling more confident, and you start looking better because all that booze weight starts to kind of come off with all those empty calories and stuff. And it's just like a slow but steady uptick of who you are,
If you
the
do it
person you're always
once,
supposed to be. Yeah.
If you do it once, you have just proven to yourself that you can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Was it hard? Yes. But did you do it? Yes. Can it be done again? Absolutely. And with each time, it's like building a muscle, right? With each time, it gets a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier until we're and that's kind of where recovery is. I want to just go back. Something that you said earlier, there are a lot of people that, they make recovery their identity, and some do, right? But for me, I try to look at it from a standpoint of recovery is just a part of my life.
Yeah.
It is an important part of my life.
It's a very important part of my life.
It is the most important part of my life because I know this with every fiber of my being. If I was not sober and in recovery and an active participant, all of the other things that I'm grateful for that come after that would not exist in my life. So on my gratitude list, the top number one every single day is my sobriety and recovery. No matter what the great things are that are happening in my life. My daughter gave birth to my first grandchild, this past summer.
Congratulations.
Even before that, I put my sobriety and recovery, then it was birth of, Rory, right? Only because I wouldn't be present to be there for that birth if I wasn't sober and in recovery. Yeah. So I have to remember, it's not everything that I am, but it is part of my life.
Yeah, it's the foundation. It's the foundation. It has to be. Yeah, it's definitely the foundation.
I had to tear everything down. Perfect way to look at it. It's the foundation. Yeah. And the foundation that I built my life upon in the past was shaky at best, right? Shaky at best. It was, it was bound
I
to fall.
have that as a tagline on my channel's page. It's, your rock bottom can be the foundation of of which you rebuild your life. And I completely subscribe to that mentality because it is. I mean, everything in my life now, it's not all roses and flowers and whatever. There's still very tough days. It's very tough to be in existence, to live as a person. But it's even tougher without booze. But let me just say, it's so much more meaningful because, like you said earlier, with being reliable, being present and mindful and clear-headed when you saw the birth of your grandson there. So
granddaughter.
Yeah.
It's Aurora and they call her baby Rory.
Oh, okay. That's cute. Cute. But man, it's showing up for yourself, being clear-minded. It's such a funny thing because I would get bursts of it, in my drinking career. I would get bursts of 3 days off or whatever. And I'm like, man, I feel good. I probably shouldn't drink this Friday, but I was it was just my identity. I did not know how to associate within the world without having a buzz going. I just didn't. I could not get through it. And then at the very end of it, when it got really bad, I mean, it was a physical dependency. I couldn't function without it. I couldn't walk upstairs, couldn't take showers, couldn't do anything, couldn't go to work, couldn't do anything. So did you have a rock bottom?
My rock bottom came when I wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself, right? That was my rock bottom. And I had suicidal ideations, growing up. Thought everybody had them. I did. I really thought that was a normal thought of people. I thought everybody thought about it. So I didn't talk about it. I wasn't asking people hey, you ever think about killing yourself? You know what I mean? People would probably laugh at you, oh yeah, me neither. No, But like, I mean, these were, and growing up, I was popular amongst my peers. I played varsity sports. I was good in school. So to have thoughts like that is crazy,
It
right?
is.
That's what I'm thinking. It's crazy to have those kind of thoughts. But what I was really doing is like that whole time I was really just suffering from like some, thoughts around things that had happened in my life that I wasn't willing to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't. Like, I kind of just shoved things down. I didn't talk to anybody about things. I just kind of like put the smiley face on and went on through life like everything is good. Everything is good. How's things going? It's good. Like that's it. That was my response. Everything's good. Everything is good. But on the inside, I'm fucking dying. Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am like torn. Like, and my solution to that, that restlessness, irritability, discontent, whatever you want to say, just incredible uncomfortability. I found the solution in alcohol, and I found it very young. And then I found it in drugs because it worked faster. And was bigger. It was a bigger relief.
Was it
Like,
what, like cocaine?
cocaine's great, right? Like cocaine's wonderful, feels amazing. I was kind of like a garbage head. I would try anything, like the
Mm-hmm.
designer drugs, loved, like the rave scene, in the 90s, like that was a lot of fun. Ecstasy was amazing. Like all of those, like, Special K, ketamine, all of those things. Like I love tripping. You know what I mean? Like those things are all great,
Mm-hmm.
yet to solve my uncomfortability. I know today all they were doing is helping me escape my present moment. That's all it is. That's all alcohol and drugs are. I am extremely uncomfortable right here, right now. Take me out of this because I don't want to be right here, right now. So I just give me something that's going to take me out of right here, right now.
Yeah.
So like, and alcohol and drugs did that for me.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. That's literally the loop of addiction. I have an internal discomfort. I'm using an external source to fix my internal discomfort. It takes it away. The feelings come back. They come back stronger. I need to take more. I take it again, and there I am. I'm on the fucking merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And it's just nonstop until I get off.
Yeah. So now walk me through that. So like now that you're 17 years sober, man, like, and you talked a little bit about how you maintain your sobriety, but what's the thing that you're most proud of with all these years under your belt?
The most proud, helping other people, like seeing like other people like actually get
giving
it.
it back.
Yeah,
Paying it forward.
that's the thing, right? Like, and if I fail to do that, I'm failing to grow as a person, right? Like that's kind of really what keeps me connected is trying to help other people, attain sobriety as well. Like my rock bottom moment, and I share this a lot just because I think it's pretty important. Like my rock bottom moment came in a rehab. So I wanted to die. My mom hears about it. She freaks out. She's like, you need to get help. Would you get help? And I'm like, I tried AA. I'd gone to AA for about a year prior to that moment, but I really just kind of tiptoed around the rooms. I kind of like didn't talk to anybody. I went into the meeting, I sat, I left. I didn't do anything, nothing. I was still drinking intermittently. I would go to a meeting or two a week to keep, and really the only reason I was going was keep the hair, like just to keep the fire off my ass, like keep everybody at bay.
Me
That's
too.
it.
I feel like I was going for such the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
I was in such denial that I was like, I would go sometimes with a buzz going because I would be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I know I'm suffering and I'm struggling, and this is clearly like my subconscious brain trying to, grasp at any kind of semblance of normalcy and being like a good person and, well-rounded, balanced human. But I was just going into these things so with a closed mind, couldn't stand the people that I was running into at these things. I'm not saying all of them. Like there are so many wonderful people that I met in some of those rooms, and some of them made me, brought me to tears. It was such an emotional testimony that they were giving or sharing that day. And even nowadays, I'll pop into one and two, if I'm feeling like the cravings coming on that are too overwhelming to bear, then I'll pop into one that usually kind of subsides the anxiety. But I know what you mean. Like it's tough. Like, and that's why I don't like to adhere to just like AA or just this or just, there is no one all be all answer to this thing. You have to find like what works for you, right? Like you got to see what your personality is and then pursue that knowledge of help and support and compassion and all that great stuff. Find those, find what resonates with you. Like find what you get a connection with that feels like practical and makes sense,
Yeah. And then like what happened like after that though is like after a year I wanted to die, right? And like, I've got 3 young kids, 10, 7, and 4. I want to die. My mom is like, you need to get help, right? And so I was like, fine, I'll get help. And she's like, would you be willing to go to rehab? And I said, yeah, sure. So I'm out of my house. I'm living at her house. I start researching rehabs online. Find some beautiful places, by the way. Some places like on the beach, they got pools. It's beautiful. I'm like, this rehab is going to be awesome. That's what I'm thinking. Rehab is going to be great.
Play some volleyball.
It's going to be great, right? Yeah. I'm like, this won't be so bad. So my mom is like trying to get me into a rehab. It's about a week. She's worried. It's like nobody has any beds. And then she reached out to our state, like a senator, and he actually got me into a rehab. Like he had been the senator, like he was the representative for our district for fucking 50 years.
Would you write a letter or something?
She called his office.
Wow, that's
and just
smart. Yeah,
said,
smart.
She called, and she was desperate, I think too. And she just called and she said, listen, I've called every rehab in the area. There are no beds. My son wants to kill himself. He needs to get in somewhere. Somebody needs to help me. And he got her, like he called her back later that day or the very next day and said, we got him a bed. Yeah.
Shout out to that guy. I mean, that's talking about working for the people right there. That's straight up, hitting the streets and working for the people, for doing your job the way it's supposed to be done.
Yep. So absolutely. And then, so like the next day, the bed is available. Now it's real. Now you're going to rehab. Yeah. So that night, I'm like, maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit. Maybe it's not as serious as we're all making it out to be. I mean, maybe we can do this a different way. These are all the thoughts that are going through my head. And mind you, every night that my mom and her husband went to bed, I'm in the refrigerator or in the liquor cabinet, and I'm drinking every night that they go to bed. As soon as they go to bed, I'm drinking. So like the next day, we're on the way to rehab. It's snowing. It's February in New York, and the snow's coming down pretty hard. We're on the highway, and I'm like, I think if I just jumped out of the car, maybe like the tractor trailer that's behind us would run me over and I would die and I wouldn't have to do this. Then I'm like, well, maybe we're going a little too slow. I'm not going to die. My mom's going to be traumatically affected by this situation, and I can't do that to my mom. I love my mom too much. Next thing you know, we're there. I'm like, fuck, okay, we're doing this, So I go in, I wait for about 3 hours to get checked in the waiting room. They bring me into the back. Nurse is running piss tests. He's taking my blood. He's asking me some questions. And he asked me, he's like, when's the last time that you drank? I said, a couple of days ago. And he said, when is the last time you drank? And I said, this morning. He goes, there you go. Yeah. For once in your life, why don't you just be honest? For once. He goes, you're here. You're here. This is your chance. Like if you are here, get everything you possibly can out of this situation. So like then on the way up in the elevator, I asked that same nurse, I was like, is there any advice you could give me? And he said, yeah, don't get involved in all the bullshit. He's like, there is a lot of drama up there. Stay out of it. Remember why you're here. I was like, okay. I went to bed that night because it was late. Got up the next morning, went down into the meeting room. And there's probably about like 23 people in there. Guy comes in to run the session. He says, everybody take a look around. Maybe 2 of you might stay sober. 2 of you might get this and experience long-term sobriety. I'm like, holy shit, these are not good odds. I'm like, this is not good. 2. Yeah. Now, mind you, this place, it's the 3rd floor, MICA unit at a state hospital. That's their recovery center, is like in a hospital. And I'm like, this sucks. My thoughts instantly were like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I was looking at online. The places I was looking at online did not look like this place, so this was not the country club experience that I was hoping for. This is very different, and I didn't want to be there at all. So for the next couple of days, I was supposed to be, I was supposed to meet with the therapist there, like the psychiatrist, to get an evaluation. It kept getting pushed off. I'm complaining to my mom every day, like this place doesn't have what I need. You got to get me someplace else. I'm supposed to meet with a psychiatrist. They haven't had that yet. Just a lot of complaining about my life and not really, paying attention, during the meetings and stuff, trying to be as lighthearted as possible. There's, there's no going outside. You can go outside for like 20 minutes a day. There's no smoking, nothing. Like everything is taken, no caffeine, like nothing. So I'm like, this sucks. I went in there on February 12th, February 17th. I am on the phone with my then 4-year-old son. He is on the phone and he's like, hey, Dad, you're going to be at my party tomorrow, right? It's his birthday the next day. The next day, February 18th was his birthday. And he's like, you're going to be at my birthday party tomorrow, right, Dad? And I was like, no, I don't know, bud. My kids thought I was working, right? So I'm like, no, I don't think I'm. He's like, no. You know where it is. You know where it's at. I'll see you tomorrow at my birthday. And that conversation broke me.
Yeah.
Literally I hung up the phone and I went into my room, and for a person that had zero belief in God or anything of that sort, I was out of answers. And I knew at that very moment I was out of answers. And I hit my knees, in that room by myself, and I was asking for help. Basically, the way it was like an ultimate confession of everything I had ever done wrong. Every person I had ever wronged in my life came out of my mouth as the tears rolled down my face. And I said, please help me. I said, I can't do this. I had this realization, my pivotal moment, that window of opportunity came in a conversation with a person that I loved more than anything in the world, and for the first time in my life, I actually realized that my actions were not only affecting me, they were having a direct effect on the people I loved most in my life, and these people that loved me. And that really is what kind of pushed me into that.
It sounds like you found your why in that moment. You know what I mean? And that's where a
Immediately.
lot of people, myself included, I was searching for the why, even though I was surrounded by many whys. I just was too dumb, oblivious, denial, whatever you want to call it, to
100%.
recognize the significance of that why.
They've been around me. They surrounded me, right? Those whys surrounded me.
But you had to be in a place that you have no control of. You have very little freedom as far as what you eat and all that stuff, and can't have caffeine and these normal things that we take for granted, I guess. But you finally found your why, man. I had a very similar situation I don't know if you know too much of my story, and I won't get into too much detail, but I had 2 transplants, and that saved my life. And then during this, in between the first and the second transplant, my stomach exploded, like it ruptured, and I went to septic shock, and they gave me a 10% to 15% chance of life to survive. So as I'm going through this, and I grew up in a very Catholic house. My father went, super, super devout Catholic, mother too. And, I didn't really believe in the dogmas of religion and all that stuff, but I knew there was like a higher power. Why are we all here? That kind of stuff. And I came to grips with the forgiveness component of sobriety. I finally succumbed to being powerless over alcohol. I was lying in a bed, already so sick, amazed that I was still alive, honestly, but still in septic shock. Everything's confusing. And that's what I did. I sat there and I found my why, and I just went into these conversations that I was having in my head, but they were like you and I right now, but with all the people that I wronged throughout my life because of my drinking, embarrassing them, saying hurtful things, not apologizing for it, and then actually making the apologies in like the most purest, honest, authentic way I possibly could. And then I noticed, like, at that cold, long night of coming to terms with my faults, my mistakes, everything, I put it all on me. And then I said, I'm so sorry to everybody. And I went through each one, and all of a sudden, I can't explain it, man. Something was lifted off my shoulders. I took a deep breath. Like, I came to, I was looking around. It was still dark, but the sun started to creep in the morning and the sunrise. And I was like, I'm here. Like, I'm still here. I have another day. I have another breath of life in me. What do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do now? Like, you have to change. If you can't change then, if you can't see how clearly God has put this in front of you, and you said all your goodbyes and your forgivenesses, crazy.
That's it. Like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, that is the first promise. Cause that's what I said. I go, at the end of everything that you just said, I've got the God bumps. Oh,
I got goosies when you were talking about yours.
I love it. And it's literally like when I made that confession, that like ownership of the things that I did, and now I'm taking accountability for it. And now I'm like, the words I said, if you help me, I will do everything that I can to stay sober. Because like you just said, if your why is strong enough, the how is easy, right? I firmly believe, and I say this all the time, I firmly believe you can call it whatever you want. You want to call it your higher power, the universe, God, whatever. I call it God. My God can move mountains. But if I think that I'm not going to wake up tomorrow morning and the shovel's going to be laying next to the bed because I have to pick up the shovel, right? He'll move the mountains, but he's going to expect my help, right? And that's the promise I made. If you help me. And when I stood up after that situation, I literally, the same thing. I just was like, for the first time in a really long time, I just felt okay inside. I felt okay. It was literally like somebody was telling me, like, it's all gonna be all right, dude. Like, it's okay. And then there was a knock on the door, and it was the nurse, and she said, "You have a phone call." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "It's your mom." And I'm like, "Okay." So my mom is on the phone, and she's like, "I found you another bed. You know, they can have it at another facility." And I was just like, "It's okay." She's like, "What are you talking about? Are you okay?" I go, "Mom, I can't explain what just happened, but everything is going to be okay. I'm going to stay right where I am." And she was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am perfectly fine." Like, it was you want to talk about like God interceding, the universe interceding in my life. And like you said, the key is these moments happen all the time. I was just too fucked up and too entrenched in my own stuff to see it was actually the things that are being presented in front of me on a daily basis.
Yeah, when you have a pessimistic, because I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Like when you're a drunk and you're an alcoholic and you're going through life like pessimistic and negative, like you're just, you don't, maybe if you don't know it, you are attracting more of that into your life. Like, and to break the cycle of that is super hard, but it just takes a very strong conviction of like, hey, this is not me anymore. It's not serving me. So I need to start giving out like loving energy, compassionate energy, like towards others in my world. And then what you start noticing is that these little blessings will start popping into your life the second. I'm not kidding. Like this is what happened in the story I was just referring to when I said when I said my penances and my confessions, all of a sudden when that sunlight started, I read and I started practicing gratitude. I started having a gratitude journal and things like that. As tacky, and I would never have done that in the past. But here I am writing like, I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful I have air in my lungs this morning. I'm grateful I don't want alcohol right now. Like all these little small things. And then I started like having a smile on my face, and then I started to improve, like started it like healthier. Like and by the time the kidney transplant came 6 months after. And this is, mind you, I had a ileostomy bag on my body, attached to my body because my stomach exploded. And I'm sitting there like, woo, like, whatever, man, like, whatever. If this is like a test that
show me the way
God's putting me through,
show me the way.
I'm still going to write this. I am grateful I am sober today.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
check
all
that
in.
one off. And then next thing I know, my day is better. I'm setting myself up on the right foot, you know, and it's funny how many people miss that and they don't understand. It just takes
I live by this mantra.
Simple kindness.
I think what you said is super important though, like about like the pessimistic, you know, nasty attitude we walk around with, like when we're, you know, in our addiction, people in their addiction. Like I literally lived by the mantra, the world is full of assholes. I'm just living in it. It's not me. It's not me. But yeah, it is me. That's what I'm attracting into my life. It's all I see. Where, you know, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if I'm constantly focused in the direction of this is not going to work out, this is not for me, then what am I going to do? That I need to start seeing things, feeling things, believing things, looking at the possibilities in things instead of looking at the, you know, the adversity and everything.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key things like for my life today is that undoubtedly we are going to face obstacles. We are going to, right? I'm going to face obstacles and adversity, but in every single one of those, there is opportunity. Like look at COVID, like what it did for me. Like, you know, I felt at the time immediately, it's like, it's taken away my livelihood, right? Like but had that not happened, like the opportunities that came from it, the transformations and the new direction that I got put in my, you know, placed, the path that I put myself on, looking at like what kind of opportunities are in this, we wouldn't be sitting here today. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we would not be sitting here today, you know, if certain things didn't happen. I wouldn't have the beautiful people that I have in my life today. Like, you know, like being in Las Vegas, like, you know, the people that are, you know, I kind of, you know, I help raise, you know, like 3 boys, you know, younger boys that are 15, 12, and 7. And like, you know, I get to play like a role in their lives that's way different it's just different, but it's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, and like one of the things, I read this thing the other day, and I don't know it verbatim, but it's basically like, recovery has helped me instill things into my children, that I wish I knew then. You know what I mean? Like, I can show them, like, it's kind of the same knowledge my grandfather tried to place upon me, when I was a kid, but I was too smart to hear it. Right? Like, yeah, Pa. He told me at 15 years old, like the day after I go up to his house to mow his lawn, they lived right up the street, after a family picnic, and I was drinking some beers at the family picnic. And, he said to me, he's like, "Hey, bub, you got to be careful." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Nothing bad happened, right? I had some drinks. I felt good, and like, he was like, "You got to be careful." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You have one and you can see it in your eyes. You're ready to go."
Yes.
And I was
Isn't
like,
that crazy?
"You're ready
I know
to
exactly
go."
what you're talking about. There's a type of person that you just see, like it's like the throttle. You just put it in the fourth gear and you're like, "Oh,
I just flipped
off."
the switch. The switch is on. I just flipped the switch on. And for someone like me, I don't have an off switch. I don't. I do it until I either pass out, black out, do something stupid, or I end up handcuffed to a fucking hospital gurney, or in a jail cell, or, in the trooper station. Like, these are the places that I end up. That wasn't on my list in the morning. This isn't how I looked at my day, right? I didn't think my day was going to turn out this way. No way.
And you know what's crazy, man? Like, for me, I was chasing that first drink, like that first drink feeling, where it's everything is like, "Oh my God, I can relax. Like, I can laugh. I can be silly. I can just like chill out on the couch and watch a movie or something." But like, what I didn't realize, and now what I do in recovery, is that it plateaus. So like, even if you have that first really stiff drink, like a Long Island iced tea or something, and you have that first one and you feel amazing, like the second one, it's a return of diminishing returns, right? You plateau. So you keep trying to get it and you get kind of close, but you never actually get to that first initial feeling of what alcohol does to you. So for me, I was constantly chasing that feeling and drinking like excess amounts. Like, maybe I'll get it again, maybe, and like, it never would come, but I would just chase that initial feeling of like the most blissful euphoria of that first drink. But God,
100%. Like that what you just said is literally what separates like the alcoholic or abusive drinker from a person that's just a normal drinker, right? Like, you can ask a normal drinker, like, "Why do you drink?" Like, "I don't know. I love the pleasure I get from it. It makes me feel a little happier, a little more joyful. I let down my inhibitions a little bit." And it's like, "Okay, that sounds awesome. And then why do you have another one?" "Well, after the first one, I'm feeling pretty good. I start drinking a second, and about halfway through the second one, I start to feel it. And then I'm like, done." "What?
Yeah.
You're what? You're done?" Like, when I start to feel it is when I hit the fucking gas pedal. Like, what are you talking about? You're done. It's literally that is what a normal person says. "Well, why didn't you have any more?" "Well, I was starting to feel it."
Yeah.
Starting to feel what? Like, that's when I start. Like, I thought that's where aren't you looking to feel it? No. They're not looking to feel it.
I get pissed when people say like there's no biological component towards alcohol addiction. I completely disagree, because I know I feel it, and I have friends, family members that don't really drink much, and they don't get that. So it's like, but my dad had it, and like some, and other people in my family definitely probably show signs of it every now and then. But it's something that like is so overlooked, and we don't address it properly. I feel like, and we don't talk about it openly, like as if it could happen to you, like that's something I wish they kind of like, when we were younger, they really honed in that idea of like, just because it doesn't happen to everyone doesn't mean it can't happen to you, and likely will if there is some kind of biological attachment to that.
I think that what they have proven scientifically, because there's people out there, like, there's people that just believe like this is a willpower type thing. Like, you need to fight it more. I don't believe in that whatsoever, right? Like, all the willpower in the world wouldn't keep me from fucking doing something that I didn't want to do it. I knew I wasn't gonna do it. I told myself over and over again. And then all of a sudden, like, why does it seem like a good idea? So like, there was for a long time, they would say that there's a genetic component for alcoholism, but it's bigger than that.
It's
right?
totally bigger.
The genetic component is that we can be predisposed to having addictive personality, right? And you can fill in any of the blanks, whatever you want to fill in the blank with, whether it's, alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, shopping, social media, whatever it is, whatever relieves that uncomfortability inside me from an external source. So that's the addictive component of it. Like that's the genetic marker that people do have, that like, are you one of an addictive personality? So that's why alcoholics and addicts can be so successful if they put their focus in the right direction. If my why is strong enough, the how is going to be easy. I can use that genetic predisposition that I was using for bad. My focus was in the wrong direction. But if I can focus that to be extremely motivated. I can take massive action, be extremely disciplined, because I was super disciplined when it came to getting fucked up. Like you ask any addict, we will find a way. I will find a way to get drunk.
Yes.
Right. So okay, if I was that determined to stay drunk, it's a whole lot easier to stay sober.
I know.
Right. Like think about the things that you would do to hide it, to, you know what I mean?
Just
to manipulate
the mental,
all of it. It's exhausting.
The exhaustion.
It's exhausting.
I would feel so drained at the end of Bender, because I would be like, I just spent so much time planning this whole Bender, going to the store, getting the Smirnoff bottle, buying 6 Gatorade bottles, putting that big thing of Gatorade into another bottle, taking those Gatorade bottles, making sure they're half full with Gatorade so it doesn't look like just clear liquid, right? Putting them in, getting into my car, putting them in hiding spots, going to the shed, putting it in a shed, going into a bush, finding it in a bush. Like, what was I doing? I was like living in a crazy different reality than many people walking amongst me. It was just exhausting. That's
exhausting.
I would say I would hit the pillow every night and I'd be like so upset with myself, so discouraged. Couldn't believe that I became this person. Like I was a teacher, so this contradictory thing was coming into it. I felt like a fraud, a phony. It was just one bad decision after another. And I wasn't willing to seek support because of who I am, I guess I was raised, like the person I am. Like I just didn't want to admit that I had a problem, and only did it take a liver transplant for me to finally understand that life is precious. You should never take a day for granted. Be kind to others, practice gratitude, do all these things that we should be doing anyways in life. Unfortunately my journey was very difficult, and who knows what the future holds, but right now, man, I'm just happy I'm sober, and I'm happy that I'm having this conversation with you, Michael, and you're keeping me sober today, buddy. So
what's awesome is, like you just said, like who knows what the future holds, but you know what? That's the exciting part, right?
Yeah.
Like we actually get to show up and see what happens. Like we get to see what happens today, and I love to tell people like our best days are still ahead of us. And no matter where you're at in life, it doesn't matter what age, what part of you, like you could be feeling like you're super successful and there's a lot of good going on. But hey, let's look at it from the standpoint of like, as great as it is, your best days are still ahead of you, right? Live with that mindset that my best days are still ahead of me, no matter what's going on. And I can continue to grow, because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to continue to grow.
Yeah, I also have this cool thing that someone shared with me that I actually hated at first, but now I love it. Whereas instead of saying, "Oh, I have to," like you just say, "Oh, I get to," even if it kind of sucks a little bit. But it's better than the alternative for me, at least, was death. So like, oh, I get to, go pick up like my niece, like, which now like I really enjoy doing, like being reliable, being that uncle that now can go like pick up my nieces and nephews and be the responsible uncle, fun uncle that I always was supposed to be, but was so clouded with alcohol addiction that I couldn't see through to the light. I couldn't see that life actually is better sober. I just couldn't see it. I wasn't willing to get that far, but here we are, man. And life is good, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, man. I would 100% agree with you. And that one word, changing one word, just changes everything. I have to do this. I have to do this. I get to do this.
Yeah,
you get to do this. Just think about the way that it changes.
It just sounds so light. It sounds so freeing. It sounds so like abundantly obvious. Like, oh, I get to do that. Like, I get to be nice to. What do you like? What do you mean I have to?
Like your physiology changes, like, right? Like I have to do this too. I get to do this, right? And like when we're standing a little taller and walking a little prouder, like guess what? Better things happen. And how is that possible? Well, because now I'm attracting better people into my life. Nobody wants to go approach the guy that's walking around like this.
Yeah. And then you get mad, like, welcome, no one's saying hi to me. It's like, dude, like, look at, man, you're not approachable.
Yeah, you are completely unapproachable, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to come up to you. Like maybe I would in a recovery situation be like, hey, is everything okay? You know what I mean? Like, you look like you're a little down today. Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm not. I'm fine. Like, oh, you fucking sure seem fine. You know what I mean? Like, nobody got here being fine. Trust me. Yeah. I'm telling you now, this was not on my list of, I wasn't hanging out. It was a gorgeous day outside. Like, hey, I'm going to go check out a fucking recovery meeting. I'm going to go to an AA meeting. Nobody said that. This is the last, you know what I mean? It's the last house on the block. You know, I didn't see recovery as a part of my life when I was a kid. No, no little kid ever sits around, says, I want to be an alcoholic or an addict when I grow up. I was convinced
that I would never become one. I was like, I'm keeping it together. I have a job. I have like a girlfriend. I have this, like, I was always like making room for it, even though like the room was getting closer and closer on me. It was about to collapse on my neck. But I was still like, oh, I can still drink. But it just took time. It took a liver transplant for me to finally see the way out of this thing.
I'm super glad it did. Yeah,
me too. I mean, I wish it didn't happen, but I'm glad I'm glad all the wisdom I've learned from a lived experience of having to go through something so traumatic as
think of how many people that you're going to be able to help with that experience.
Yeah,
that's what I like to tell people. Right? Like it's the experiences, it's the hardest things that I went through in my life where I can actually offer the most help.
Mm-hmm.
It's those things because like when it's those moments where I felt the most low, and now I can sit here and say like, I made it through it. And so can you. And I know a whole bunch of other people that have made it through the same thing too. And it's amazing because I never thought it was possible, but apparently because of the living human beings that are standing now in front of you, it is possible. Because not one of us thought it was possible either in the beginning.
No, I never saw a way out. I was towards the very end of the heaviest addiction, the grasp of addiction, alcohol addiction I was going through. It was when I felt my liver hurt, that was like, okay, now I'm just going to drink myself to death. I don't want to be a burden on anyone else. I don't want to disappoint everyone all the time, like every single day, like I am. It just became too overwhelming, and I wasn't willing to seek support, get help, be vulnerable. Just say I need help. Like, it's not even like a big deal. If someone were to come up to you, right? Someone come up to you in the street and say, hey man, like I need help, with, you name it, X, getting to the coffee shop. Yeah, it's right down there, and you feel like a little bit better. But it's weird. Like, we don't like to do that as humans. We don't want to show like a brave face. We don't want to show that. We do want to show a brave face. We don't want to show weakness, and that's stupid. Everyone's suffering. Everyone's dealing with something. Even if it's not alcohol, it's something else that they're hung up on or they're experiencing right now. You have to be mindful of that. That's why I don't get pissed at people who cut me off or whatever. Cause I'm like, that guy, who knows what that guy was going through right now?
You might be rushing to the hospital, right? Like, you have no idea. Like, that's why, like what you just said, like nobody knows what every other people are going through. Like there's a quote, and they give credit to Mother Teresa. They give credit to Gandhi, but the quote is, I once cried because I had no shoes. Then I met a man with no feet.
Right.
And that's powerful stuff right there. You know what I mean? Like, because I can think that everything in my life is tough and hard and blah, blah, blah. Guess what? So is everybody else's. Mm-hmm. Everybody else has got something going on, and theirs might be more traumatic than what I have going on. Like more detrimental. Like, don't you know I need to get to the store? I need to make dinner. Well, that person that just cut you off needs to get to the hospital because their baby is about to be born.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know what's going on in other people's lives, and who am I to judge?
Right.
I was the most judgmental person in the world. I could tell you about every person in the room, and I never met them, but I got something to say about them. Recovery really taught me, like, dude, it's not up to me to judge anybody. We'll all be judged someday. It ain't going to be by me.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great way to end it, man. What do you think?
That's a great, I agree.
That's a great way to end it. So, Michael, where can people find you, man, if they're curious or reach out to you?
Absolutely. So the space that I hang out the most in is on Instagram, and you can find me at Better Beginning Now. And then I also just starting to get a little more active. I'm going to get a lot more active in the Facebook group, which is also Better Beginning Now. But if you go to the Instagram page, there's a link to the Facebook group. Come over, join it. It's just a place where I want people to have good conversations, helping one another, because I really do firmly believe that we are all healing from something. And I know from personal experience that when we heal together, we heal much faster and in much better and greater ways.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's
I love
fun.
it. I love it, man. I'm feeling great now.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel good.
And I feel good too, man. I'm really glad that you jumped on this episode today, because I feel like I needed it. I was in kind of a funk, and you brought me back to the foundation again of why I'm doing this in the first place. You know, it's to have conversations like this, very free flowing, honest conversation about alcohol and drugs and whatever, and how that there is a life past them. So, you know, don't give up. Don't ever give up hope, because the second you give up hope, that's when everything goes away. So don't give up hope, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will, for having me here, man.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you very,
pleasure.
very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you everybody for watching this episode, and I hope you liked it and as much as I did. And be on the lookout for many, many more episodes coming soon. Also, I wanted to mention, I haven't even mentioned this on because I always think that my YouTube podcast, the video one that we're on right now, is like the end all be all, but I really got to put more stock into, you know, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on all the different, wherever you can get any kind of podcast, streaming podcast. Please, guys, like, go check those out too. If you're like on the way to work and you don't want to watch my big fat head, go for it. Just listen to my big fat head. That's okay. But yeah, for real, you know, check those out. Subscribe to my channel. That'd be so cool. That would be just, you know, a real lot to me. And I hope the audio stuff starts to go up, because I should really start pushing that as well. I think a lot of people, myself included, I listen to podcasts all the time. So wherever you get a podcast, check out the Willpower Podcast with Will Gordon. Make sure you put the Will Gordon part in there, because there's a million Willpower podcasts. I probably picked the worst one name, but anyways, yeah, so check that out, guys. And again, thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you. My friend Michael over here, thank you so much for coming on, and be on the lookout for many, many more episodes coming soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.